Hey there, this is That News You Care About, a weekly video game news show from the folks over at That Nerdy Site. Today is Monday, August 3rd of 2020, and I'm one of your hosts, Logan Wilkinson. Joining me this week is my Phoenix son, Trevor Starkey.
Hey, that's me.
It is you. How you doing, Trev?
I'm doing okay. It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
It has been a long Monday, but it's a fine Monday, and I'm done with work now. So
it's about to get better.
It's about to get better. As you and I touched on a little bit before we started recording, I recorded 6 hours of podcasts yesterday. So
you sure did.
Looking forward to getting this little chunk out of the way, and then I'm off for like another few days. Like I'll edit everything together and stuff. But that's it for my my record load for this week so far. So got some time to kill.
Also joining us is the small town mayor of my heart, and also the editor-in-chief of Handsome Phantom, Ben Smith.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Your honor.
Such a subdued intro there, Ben.
Well, I mean, I'm not a really bombastic guy. I like to, I like to stay under the radar if I can.
Sure. I respect that. I respect that energy, if not knowing what it's like. Yeah, how you doing, Ben?
I'm doing all right. I also had a really long day today. I also own a brewery, and today was a brew day, and I had a long one, so I was running around all day, and hot and wet, and it's just a mess. But I'm good because I'm here with you guys.
Oh,
happy to be hanging out.
Very sweet, and we do accept brownie points here, so that is noted.
Okay, good to know.
I mean, I'll prefer like some of that brew, but whatever.
Yeah,
actual brownies.
Whatever you want. Sure.
Yeah. Just ship it across the country.
No problem. Not illegal in any sense of the word.
No, not. Of course.
Oh wait, what state are you guys in? You're in Texas, Logan.
I'm in Arizona.
I'm in Texas.
Arizona.
He's in
I think
Arizona.
That's pretty safe, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, Arizona doesn't have any laws out there. Last time I checked.
Yeah, we're still the Wild West, absolutely.
Today, though, we are unfortunately not talking about interstate alcohol sales and transfer. We are talking about Twitch streaming, the Gen Zs out there. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tried and ultimately failed to get a House amendment on a House appropriations bill dealing with banning the military, in particular the United States Army and Navy, to stop streaming and recruiting people via Twitch and other gaming services. The final amendment vote failed by a vote of 126 in favor to 292 opposed. I'll open it up to Ben since he already had thoughts. But Ben, what are your thoughts on the amendment proposal, the idea, the execution, the failure, all of the above?
Yeah, so we talked about this for like 90 seconds before the show started.
Oh yeah,
so
we're jumping in hot.
Some of those,
yeah,
some of those comments as well. But I have to first say I did not read the bill in its entirety, as probably almost no one did, except for maybe a couple people who wrote it. Not the people who voted on it.
Exactly, like the interns that had to write it.
Yes, yeah. Correct. Yes. So I don't know everything that was there, but it's just there's a lot of things that I think all three of us would prefer that the government didn't spend money on. If we need to recruit for the armed services, I'm not certain how doing that through ads or something of the sort on Twitch is a bad thing from my perspective. Now, I don't know that any of us are the types of people who would be more or less inclined, nor do I think anyone would be more or less inclined necessarily if you saw a Twitch ad to join the military, if you weren't already thinking about it at least. But with that said, I don't really have any problem with the government not spending money on that, because I'm not a big fan of the government spending money on a lot of things. But I guess my thought process is specifically, and I already know the answers, but how does recruiting on Twitch or Mixer, if that still existed, or anything else like that, how is that different than advertising in the movie theater before you see a war movie, or any movie for that matter, or on a banner ad while you're on some random website? So I don't understand the specific targeting towards video games specifically from a pragmatic point of view, but I don't have a problem specifically with the military spending less on recruiting. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, my guess would be that one of the big objections would be that Twitch obviously skews younger,
Hmm.
specifically to, compared to the examples you kind of brought up of like before a movie or something. You're before a movie is gonna have any number of ages there, but like Twitch is gonna probably be 15 to 20 25
Predominantly, yeah.
somewhere in that range. So I imagine it's almost the like when I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, this would have been, this is a weird like mashup of the won't somebody think of the children versus like, well, we have to also fund our armed services, and
Right.
we can't question why or how we fund our armed services. And so that's why, like, I can very easily see why this failed, because anybody who would have voted against this would have immediately, anybody who did vote against this is going to be immediately labeled as like weak on the military or something like that, in the political sphere. And I mean, like one of AOC's quotes was even like tweets was even like, imagine trying to explain Twitch to the rest of like Congress,
Yeah.
given the average age of Congress or the Senate or whatever. So like it always seemed doomed to fail for me. So it was very much like I was seeing it pop up on Twitter and stuff, but I really wasn't paying too close attention to really any of it, because I was like, yeah, I don't expect it to go anywhere, because yeah, our current government just isn't in a place where they're going to have the hard questions of like, no, we shouldn't be spending this money on going after a gaming audience or something like that, because they're gonna throw as much money as the military as they can, basically, and that seems to be a cross both of the major parties at this point.
Right.
Despite, yeah, I would also much rather like, hey, let's not spend half of our budget on military whatever, especially as somebody who like gets really annoyed that like the arts budget is always on the chopping block or something like that. And it's like,
Sure.
that is such a minuscule portion of any kind of federal budget, that like, but somehow that always ends up under fire, and the military is always just like, yeah, we're fine, ha ha ha. But I was also talking before we started recording that like I remember the Army and Navy ads and stuff being very like polished and well produced and stuff growing up, and just being like, yeah, I like, cool, it's a cool commercial, like yay for the Marine fighting the dragon or whatever over like a pool of lava, if I remember correctly. But I'm like, I'm still not inclined to serve, but that also I'm sure has a fair amount of where I grew up, my upbringing, my personal background, all that stuff. So I don't know if like Twitch, if there is a target of this Twitch audience that's going to be more susceptible to that kind of draw, and and one of the other arguments that I saw kind of making the rounds on this is it was specifically related to like the Army and the Navy having esports teams, and the conversation being like, well, they also have like collegiate basketball teams or whatever. Like they have basketball
Marching
teams, they have
bands
sports, and they have plenty of other like extracurricular activities. So a Twitch esports team just seems to fall right in line with that, in the same way that colleges have all of those same things as well. So that was another thing I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but also largely because I don't often think about the inner workings of the military to really weigh in on one way or the other. But that's kind of my run of consciousness kind of thoughts on the matter.
I'm pulling from GameTree.biz right now in the story, but while one of the ads that the Army had up on its Twitch channel promised the chance to win an Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, when the link went to recruitment form with no mention of a contest, timing of the draw, how many people would win, or the odds of winning, as an example. Twitch then ordered the U.S. Army to stop promoting that giveaway on its official Twitch channel. And following the backlash, the U.S. Army appeared to pause its Twitch streaming and social media activities. And then, like Trevor and Ben each already kind of said, part of, I think, why Ocasio-Cortez kind of originally put forward the bills, because a large proportion, I would say, of people on Twitch, either watching Twitch or streaming on Twitch, are not necessarily of military recruitment age. There's a quote from her which begins with, quote, children as young as 13 and often as young as 12, it's a 1 year difference, that's just, end quote, back to the quote again, are targeted for recruitment form that can be filled online. This amendment is in direct alignment with the values that children should not be targeted in general for many marketing purposes in addition to military service. She also continued that these children as young as 12 are not education outreach programs, but recruitment forms for the United States military. End quote. Ocasio-Cortez later on kind of stressed more and more about these themes, and again, she obviously put forward the amendment and gave a speech that, as at the very least, compelling to watch. Following the vote, which again ended in a 126-292 vote, Ocasio-Cortez mentioned some of the positives, which namely were the 103 Democrats who voted against the bill, as opposed to the 126 who voted for it. Not a single Republican voted in favor of the bill. And then the final thing that the GameIndustry.biz story mentions that I personally find really interesting, and is something I think you, Trev, asked, which is how successful could this even be? The article ends with, the Army has been using Twitch and esports to recruit for a few years now. Back in May, Military.com reported that the U.S. Army generated 3,500 recruitment leads from esports in the previous financial year. For the current fiscal year, the figure stands at already more than 13,000. So they're getting some sort of leads out of them. People want to win that Xbox Series X, apparently. Yeah, it's a weird one for me. I will echo both of your sentiments in saying that I think the United States could better spend however much money has been spent on the U.S. Army and Navy esports teams, while also saying that I think Ocasio-Cortez's amendment is one that it's just hard to talk to the vast majority of people in the United States Congress about things that involve technology, because they're just old. They're just, in a very blunt way, like, they're just very old people. They don't understand. It's like when they had their, like, the big 3 or 4 tech bros went to Capitol Hill to talk about, like, anti-monopoly, antitrust proceedings last week. And it's like, the questions they were going to ask were about, like, spam folders. Nobody has any idea what they're talking about because they're all 70 years old.
Yeah, I remember one of my favorite clips that came out of that was the guy basically saying, like, asking, I want to say, like, an Apple representative or something, like, why can I Google something here and blah, 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 and you know, I come up and why can my kid, like, Google something here? And the guy was like, well, it looks like that's an iPhone, so I can't really speak to that. Or, like, it was whatever it was, like, it was from he was clearly from, like, an opposing company versus the phone that the guy was trying to, like,
I think
dunk on him on.
They did that to Zuckerberg too, and they said, what, you know, why did Donald Trump get whatever on Twitter? I didn't even follow exactly what specifically it was, and he goes, well,
you'd have to talk to Jack Dorsey about Twitter, because I run Facebook.
Talk to somebody else, but I can tell you what we would do in that situation or something like that. So
yeah, and this is like only kind of like tangentially related to a degree, I guess, but it's like, this is also, again, a reason why I would say that, like, maybe we should look at, like, the people that represent us in the Congress and say that these people are disproportionately older than the vast majority of the general public and do something about that. And then I think you might get success on this, right? And you might get success in why people like the predatory or not predatory behavior of the U.S. Army and Navy's, you know, Twitch channels and giveaway stream things, whatever. But I think it's just talking to people who have no idea what... I mean, like, I would genuinely be curious, out of the 435 people in the United States House of Representatives, how many of them actually have any idea what Twitch is. And then I would feel better about them making this... Like, I just feel like, conservatively, genuinely, I don't know if half the people at least know what Twitch even is that voted on this amendment. So, like, that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, they're just shooting a blank in the dark.
Right. I think there's actually something... And in theory, I don't have a problem if we don't want the military to spend money on Twitch to recruit. I'm fine with that. First of all, they should have known that you can't do giveaways. You can't do a giveaway for like a video game or a car or anything without disclosing like the odds and everything.
Yeah, that's definitely like some like shady shit.
Yeah, so they should have known that, and probably that I would I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that wasn't intentional. They just didn't know what they were supposed to disclose. Okay, we can get past that, whatever. You don't want them to do that, no problem. But I feel like the target at, and this is just how I'm reading it, the target specifically at the military, not recruiting on Twitch or in video games, I feel like if part of it is we need to protect our 12 to 15-year-olds, from being unduly recruited or something like that, it's almost, I almost feel like there's a bias there against the military. And don't get me wrong, I don't agree with everything we do with our military by any means. But, there's colleges who market to students that young. I know I used to be in a college recruitment office and hated that they wanted me to do that, to go to events where those young students were. And I feel like they're saying the military is worse than anybody else who would be recruiting for XYZ. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the military can be, literally you can lose your life. But I also know personally, I was not interested in the military at all for myself, but I know people who went to the military for 4 or 5 or 8 years, and they maybe got stationed at a base being a firefighter, or they were a cook in the military or something like that, and then they came out. They had a nice ability to go and get further education if they wanted to, or if they didn't want to, they had a nice nest egg and they had lifetime benefits. And like, there are advantages to the military, and I feel like this specific targeting almost says like the military is less deserving of recruiting children than anybody else. And don't get me wrong, I know this is specifically about budget and appropriations, but I just feel like there's some kind of underlying thing there that I don't know if I agree with. But as far as the actual bill, I don't have a problem with. So like it's hard for me. It's like you agree with the actions but not the motives, which is something that's unusual.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I think, at least for me, understanding AOC's kind of attempt at what she was trying to do is that, like, I think it's more the fact that they are so young, right? Like, if somebody's 12 or 13 years old, I mean, they're literally 5 to 6 years away from being a recruiting kind of age, and kind of getting at them so young, right? Like, I would think it'd be a weird usage of, like, college dollars if they started going for people when they were 12 or 13.
It is. I agree.
To say nothing of the fact that I think the easy kind of difference to make between like a college recruiting somebody and the United States Army recruiting somebody, obviously, is the fact that like the stakes are much higher in one of them than the other. If you go to that college and decide to like drop out or leave or flunk out, or the worst that can happen is X, Y, and Z, it is still significantly less than going to another country and dying.
Right.
I think in general, the United States has a very interesting relationship with its military. Trevor said it, I can't remember if it was before we started recording or while we were kind of on the air, but the disproportionate amount of the federal budget that goes to the United States, like defense spending, and how we could maybe better utilize that money, right? Like, the United States has the world's foremost military that's ever existed in this planet's history, and it spends a lot of money to get that. It also just so happens to spend more than like the next 8 countries combined. And so it's like, maybe we spend a lot of money and maybe we can spend that money someplace else, right? I'd also say that, like, it's funny for me where, like, I feel like the United States Army maybe doesn't have to, genuinely, like, they don't have to spend any money on Twitch streaming, because anytime someone plays Call of Duty Warzone on a Twitch channel, that's recruited for them, right? Like, these are like the things where it's like, I feel like it's all of the small cultural things that are like bigger recruitment tools for the Army and the Navy than their actual ads, right? Like, it's people playing Call of Duty. It's like Rambo movies in the 80s. It's like, these are the things that I feel like make people be like, oh yeah, like, I want to be like that, bro. And then get like jazzed to go like sign up or whatever, right? Like, I feel like it's much less like, be the Army, like, be the Marine, like, simplify Marine Corps commercials that are like fight on a dragon over lava, like Trevor said. It's like, those are the ones where I'm like, yeah, this is like a very blatant, overt, ad, and I understand that, where it's like the smaller like cultural things of like what we're watching and consuming on a day-to-day basis that are much more likely to get people to kind of into their brains, if that's what you're worried about, to get them to kind of join up, right? Like, I think this stuff is much more like, I don't know, like, I think 13-year-old kids are maybe smarter than we give them credit for at times, and they're definitely dumber than we give them credit for at times, too, but, like, I think they're also smarter in the aspect of, like, I think they see a, like, U.S. Army ad, and are like, yeah, that's an Army ad. I'm aware that I'm watching a commercial right now, basically. And, like, they click on the link to the, giveaway, and it's just, like, a recruitment link, and they're like, welp, this is not an Xbox Series X competition, maybe. And they kind of back out. Like, these kids, I don't know, like, they've grown up in a time that is, like, A, kind of stacked against them, but B, requires them to learn really quickly, and the internet is it can be a very bad tool for that, but it also is a tool where, like, they're just getting so much information that I think this is a weird way where, like, maybe being a cynical Gen Z kid comes in handy, where it's like, yeah, like, they don't trust anything. So they don't trust this, like, Army commercial. And they're like, yeah, but, like, also it's the United States Army. It's probably not just flying out of a helicopter to punch a dragon Nazi out of the air. And so I don't know. Like, I think for sure we should better spend the money the United States has on maybe things that actually, people need. But I think the amendment is one that, like, I probably would have voted in favor for. I don't know. I don't have strong thoughts, particularly either way. I mean, certainly I'm with Ben in the aspect of, like, only knowing the one context of that one giveaway, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But if it's like a recurring pattern that they've done in the past or are going to continue doing the forward, that's when I'm going to be like, hey, the Army's doing shady shit on Twitch, with, like, those kind of giveaways. But it's an interesting one, right? And, like, again, knowing who I am, I want to take this story and, like, run in, like, 8 different directions about, like, the American political system, but I'll restrain myself because it's a Monday. But yeah, any final thoughts, Ben or Trev?
No, I mean, I think we kind of touched on everything. I like I said, I don't really know that we should be advertising for the military anywhere, but I also understand the realistic thing that, well, we need people to sign up for the military. So, or do we? I guess that's a conversation to be had. But based on the people I know and have talked to, they do sometimes have a hard time recruiting people. Mm-hmm. And even though I really dislike having the military we have, I also don't want to be without one. So it's a rock and a hard place kind of situation for me.
Yeah.
But I think probably this is a mountain over a molehill in the scheme of how many dollars it was. But I think
I would love to. That's why I'm like, I want to know how much money they were spending on this so bad.
Right. But I also respect I don't agree with a lot of politicians on many things, but I do respect the fact that AOC saw this. She thought it was an issue, or someone brought it to her, whatever the case was, and she moved forward with it. And, like, if you stand up for your values, I respect that. I think it was probably a lot of energy in a place that didn't need it, but the point is, it was something that was something she cared about. So, I think you can give her a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, the only thing I like that the conversation, especially in the context of, like, marketing to kids, being kind of one of the pillars that it was seemingly brought up against, is, like, I remember starting last year, like, YouTube basically revamped everything. It's like, you have to identify if you are a channel for, like, under 18 people, like, because YouTube doesn't want to be on the hook for marketing to children via, like, the content that we put on YouTube or something like that. And so I'm like, so the bigger thing for me is, like, how is Twitch getting away with that? If they're aware that a sizable chunk of their audience is younger, how are they not having to go through and deal with the same stuff that YouTube was having to go through? And
have you guys watched Silicon Valley?
I have not.
Okay.
I mean, not like I watched, like, the first season, but I'm nowhere near caught up on it.
Not giving anything away, hopefully, too much, but basically, there's a thing on the internet where you have to require that people are 13 or above to sign up for your website, at least the majority of websites. Yeah. And, like, somehow somebody forgot to put that on the website, and you can be fined X amount. It's some insane amount per person that does it. And, like, that, I feel like the whole not including things on the giveaway, that's just as silly as stupid, I guess I should say. Not putting the things on the giveaway that you're required to are just as stupid as the guys on Silicon Valley who didn't make sure that people who signed up for their website were above 13. Like, I don't know, that's just, yeah.
Yeah, or I mean, like, that's why we would see people like around the community, like Mario Not Bros or like Roger Picorni, having their Twitter accounts locked because they went in and updated their birthday at one point, revealing that they had been under 13 when they signed up for the account, and basically got like locked out for a while because of that. So yeah, like, and I'm sure like there's a million of those on Twitch where I'm sure it's like 10-year-olds that are saying, yes, I'm over the age of 13, because like, of course they're not doing any kind of a real like spot checking to verify any of that stuff.
Absolutely.
But moving on from that, Ben, you want to talk about some PlayStation 4 controllers.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I had a long day, so I didn't get to read the nitty-gritty of this. But basically, PlayStation has come out, or Sony has come out, however you want to put it, and said that some of their peripherals for the PS4 will work on the PS5. That includes the DualShock 4, which is great, right? We all have at least one or two, if not more, DualShock 4s laying around that we'd love to be able to take that $60 over to the new console. But they specifically did say as well that they won't work on PS5 games. Because
obviously, why would they?
Right, yeah. Because they want you to experience the features that the new games have. And, I anticipate there's probably some features that games will have that there isn't a button for necessarily on the DualShock 4. So people are kind of irritated about that. They did also mention, I think I saw that if you have a PlayStation camera, the Eye or whatever it's called now, that they'll give you a free adapter, which is pretty insane. I'm sure that's going to be a lot of cash, at least all at once, for people, early adopters buying those. That if you're an early adopter, you probably also have all the peripherals for the previous generation, in my opinion. But so that's another thing. But I don't know. What do you guys think about the fact that I'm perfectly okay with it, but the fact that you can use a DualShock 4 on the PS5, but not for PS5 games? Some people seem to be upset about it.
It's really weird for me, just as like a quick thought, because like, you can't use the PS3 controller on the PS4, can you?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So like, I never knew why they
PS3 games on the PS4.
Yes, it's like it's always weird that people would be upset about this. Where it's like you haven't been able to do this before, right? And you can't use a PS2 controller on a PS3, right? Like there's not, unless I'm mistaken, like this hasn't been a tradition before. So it's like they're just doing the same news that they've already always done.
You got it.
Yeah.
If anything, they're like allowing you to, I guess, go through like the menu of a PS5 with a PS4 controller, which is like again something new as opposed to any of the other consoles.
Well, and because like PS4 games will be backwards compatible on the PS5, you can use your PS4. Like, I mean, yeah, like it you couldn't play Infamous Second Son with a PS3 controller because you needed the touchpad for certain things in that the PS4's launch window and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, of course you can't use the PS3 controller for this. Makes sense. So yeah, it totally makes sense to me that like, of course you can. I do feel like I remember being able to use like my PS1 DualShock, like the Gen 1 DualShock.
That's why I didn't say
on
that
PS2.
one, 'cause I couldn't remember.
But that like even the DualShock 1 was like a mid PlayStation generation thing, so like they were basically future proofing and getting ready for the PlayStation 2 generation. But yeah, everything since, it's just been like, I mean, like, yeah, when I saw this news today, I was like, I mean, how many times do you have to buy new controllers with every new Nintendo system? Like, why?
Right.
I get that like Xbox, because they're not really doing a lot to change it. Like they've come out and Xbox very much kind of in the aura of what they've been really touting is like, hey, yeah, you shouldn't have to buy new stuff. But like, it's okay, cool. So your Xbox One controller will work on your Series X, great. But I totally understand that, like, hey, my DualShock 4, or I will need a DualShock 5 to use the features for DualShock 5 or for PlayStation 5 games. Like it's just one of those many stories where I'm just like, I mean, yeah, it'd be great if you could, use all these things, but like, you realize how businesses work, right? and you realize that like, if you wanted to play a PlayStation 5 game that has some kind of new feature that your PlayStation 4 controller can't do, you realize like you would have a terrible experience, right? Like, I don't understand the uproar about this, really.
It's interesting. Yeah, you can go, Ben.
Sorry, yeah. If I buy a new car and it has heated seats, and it's mechanical, and it reclines with a button, and it moves directly into my position. I don't complain. Oh man, I wanted to use my old seat in this new car. Like, I know it's a little bit of a difference, but the fact that you can use your PS4 controllers for PS4 games seems essential. I think a lot of us assumed that whenever they announced that it was going to be mostly, at least, if not fully, backwards compatible with PS4. That, yeah, we're probably going to be able to use the PS4 controller on this new system. But I don't understand why you would say, I want to use my old controller that doesn't have some of these features on my brand new system with brand new games that may or may not be more expensive, and I want to have the old thing in my hand while I play the new stuff. Like,
yeah,
I understand. I know why you would be excited that you could use the PS4 on the PS5. I don't understand why you would be excited that you can't.
Especially because, like, the new console's gonna come with a new controller. Like, it's gonna be packed
my
into the
point.
thing.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's why I'm confused.
I get like, oh, if you wanted to play, one of the new games with like multiple people, you don't have to. But I'm like, how many freaking Joy-Cons did people have to buy, or Pro controllers or whatever on the Switch if they wanted to play, Smash with all their friends or something like that? It's like this. I don't get why this is a thing, or that people are just like mad about.
I don't understand how Nintendo keeps getting away with it.
Exactly. I mean, that's really like my thought is like, I can't use my Wii U gamepad on my Switch, so I'm not like pissed about that. I get that. Hey, different hardware, different controllers, no big deal to me.
Right.
It's interesting for me because Trevor took my point, which is that, like, I would maybe understand this complaint more if the PS5 didn't come with a controller, but like, every console comes with a controller because otherwise you can't play the thing. Like, there's going to be a PS5 controller in the box here. They're going to give it to you with the console. So it's like, I don't understand why you're so mad that you can't use this old thing, right? It's because it's old. That controller is 7 years old. Technology isn't, like, it's a different machine. You're using a different box, right? Like, I don't walk up to like my like modern TV and have like a TV controller from like 1995 and be like, it's not working. It's not, like, I don't understand. Like, it's a TV like remote controller shit. It's like, it's a different thing, right? Like,
especially when you couple it with the idea that, like, I feel like I saw this over the weekend. Like, reports are estimating that the DualSense 5 is going to have like a longer battery life than the DualShock 4 was, and everybody hated the DualShock 4's battery life because of the light bar and everything. It's like, so you hated this thing, and now you're mad that you can't take the thing with the shorter battery life along with you to the next generation? Like, no, just enjoy the improvements that the thing is going to give you and the longer battery life that you'll have with the new controller.
And all the rumble features and the whole, like, being able to sense different things, as the name implies. Like,
the built-in mic and all the features of the thing. The USB-C thing. Just enjoy the hell out of that. That is worth upgrading alone. The fact that you're not going to have to use the crappy little connector that currently is there.
That never works. Well, by the way, can we talk for a second about how bad of an idea I think the built-in microphone into the DualSense controller is? Because that when you're playing, Call of Duty or whatever, and you hear other people, I usually turn other voices off unless I know the people, but when you hear everybody else's voice and it just sounds like they're screaming across the room into their controller, like, I don't know. I think that's going to have bad sound quality, but that's a different subject for a different
there's that, like, I just worry about, like, having to remember to turn that off or whatever. Like, I would constantly, like, play, or not constantly, but like the rare times I would play online or something like that, I always have to be like, wait, okay, I know my PS like camera's plugged in for VR stuff. It's not picking up my audio right now because I'm not trying to play with like audio or anything, like, and I have to like go into settings and try and figure that out. And then
didn't the Vita do that?
Maybe, I don't know.
I feel I could be totally wrong here, but I feel like the Vita, the microphone was automatically on unless you turned it off.
I mean, that certainly seems possible.
I wonder how many people were like playing, one of the few multiplayer games that came to Vita, and were just, ungodly sounds were coming from their residence, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, I'm maybe like the outlier here, where like I just don't understand a lot of the usual complaints I hear about people have before new console launch. Right? Like, I'm also the guy who like understands, but like doesn't totally get why people get so worked up about like having backwards compatible consoles, where it's like, I'm buying this new thing so that I can play new video games. I'm buying this new thing because it's new, and I'm going to get a new controller, and it's a new box with new games and new features. Like, I don't necessarily want the old things, because if I want those things,
just keep
I have them.
Yeah.
I already have the machine. I already have that console that I can play with that controller if I want to. And this is a new thing where, like, I want a new controller and a new experience and a new game. And so, like, I never really understand this criticism. I don't really understand people get so worked up about, like, having their consoles be backwards compatible. It's like, I already own the thing. If I want it, I'll plug it in again and boot it up, right? Like, I want to live underwater where, like, I don't have to keep playing and buying the same thing over and over again. Again, Nintendo getting away with this shit is baffling to me. Me and Trevor, I think, alone could do an entire podcast about Nintendo getting away with, like, things nobody else ever would be able to for, like, 4 hours. But I just don't... All of these, like, criticisms I hear about people having before a new generation of consoles launches, like every generation, I'm always like, but do you really understand what you're saying? Because why? I don't understand. I guess that doesn't make any sense to me. Backward compatible makes sense, but, like, only to a degree. Just be excited for the new thing, everybody, right? It's going to be fun, probably, or it'll be bad, but either way, it's new. So
having a controller is not going to change whether it's good or bad.
Yes, 100%. If anything, and I love the DualShock 4. It's maybe my favorite controller ever. I'm excited for this new fat, thick with 2 C's controller in my hands. I'm ready for it. I want to do the new thing. And so I'm not going to be like, I want to play with this old controller again because it's 7 years old. It's probably something has been improved in it.
Agreed,
but
man. Yeah.
That's my thoughts. Trevor, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just very much looking forward to the USB-C. That's really what it comes down to for me.
Nice,
is like the controllers that I have just always they lose enough charge that the existing USB like cable, like, I would have to leave it plugged in, and it just never forms a good connection. So it got to the point where I'm like, now I basically have to rotate 2 controllers, and I will have them in, like, the remote charging dock that I basically have as, like, my stand with my PSVR. So I basically just have, like, one constantly charging on that thing, and then I'm using the other one because the cable that I have just doesn't even connect to any of those controllers anymore. So it's just like, I'm tired of dealing with that after 7 years. I've never complained really about, like, the jet engine sound or whatever. Like, it's whatever. That is the thing that drives me most crazy about my PlayStation. Yeah, no, mine either. And I mean, admittedly, I have a Pro, but it's that thing where I'm like, I had to dig through cables to find one recently because I was like, the controller wasn't syncing, it wasn't reading on my system, and I was like, well, crap, I need to physically plug it into the thing. Do I have one of those cables that works? Because the one I was finding just didn't, and I finally found, like, a short one that does me no good, like, sitting on my couch or something. But it was like it does the trick. It syncs the controller to the system, and I can move on from that. And I just look forward to the lesser burden of the future system because of that.
The exact reason I bought a second controller for my PS4 was because of the battery life. It's very rare that I actually play a game with 2 people in the same room. Not entirely uncommon, but if I'm going to play with my kids or something like that, we usually bust out the N64 or, something that's meant for, like, multiple people on the screen. And there are some good games for PS4, don't get me wrong, that are multiplayer couch co-op. But I just saw a deal one day and I was like, oh, that'd be really nice to not have to I'll constantly be plugging in my controller while I'm trying to hold it sitting on my chair or my couch. So I wonder how. I think that's the story for most people. Is the reason they have 2 controllers is so they can charge one while they're playing with the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just buy controllers. It's okay, guys. It's gonna be all right. You're gonna get a free one in the box.
That's right.
But that ends the show. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support us fine folks over at That Nerdy Site, you can do so over at patreon.com/thatnerdysite, like all of our wonderful supporters have and patrons have. We love them, and we give them socially distanced hugs. Yeah, so you can go do that over at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. All of our wonderful tiers, rewards, everything is there. All of their wonderful support has made all of our success possible and made shows like this one and like that D+, for example, come to fruition. So we thank them very much, and you can go over there to do that. You should also go like, subscribe, share, or tell your granny about the show, and go rate and review over on podcast services around the globe. It really does help for newer shows like this one, even for the older ones as well. So we would really appreciate it if you did that. And if you do give us a 5-star review, then Frank Bazzani is going to write you a haiku in Ghost of Tsushima. So do you really want to pass that up? I don't think so. You can go follow Ben at BenSmith2588, I believe, Ben.
That's correct. And my Twitter account is locked thanks to BenSmith288 or 258 or something like that, being a complete moron and somehow getting lots of hate sent my way because people mistaked it. But if you look legit, I'll accept you if you're not going to harass me.
Yeah. Be nice. Be nice to Ben. He's a lovely man.
That's just a general rule in life, right?
Just a general advice. Just be good. Just be nice. Be nice. Anything you want to plug or shout out, Ben?
No, actually, about 10 minutes before I hopped on the show, we just had a new review go live on our YouTube channel. So if you
what game?
That's a great question. I did not review it. Let me see. It's called Relicta. Dave over on our team worked on that. But just in general, if you wanna go anywhere that would be helpful to me, to go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/handsomephantom, and subscribe.
They're lovely people there. I know them, and one of them is a ginger, and so that's very nice.
Oh, he's technically the most glorious ginger, so.
I agree. I agree to that, in fact.
Shout out to Ben for having to sympathize with me, being one of the few people that can sympathize with me on having to deal with Cameron Abbott's MS Paint image editing.
It got to a point when Cameron was writing for us a lot, it got to the point I said, Cam, you can do all these paint things, but you have to put them in the article. You could not make them the icon for the front page of the website anymore. So I feel for you, Trevor.
Yeah, we had one in our he had fun with it in his game of the year breakdown last year, and one of his games was one of his games ended up being like one of the site game of the years too. I think it was Devil May Cry. It was Devil May Cry or Fire Emblem Three Houses. One of those. He had done his dumb little thing of putting his face on things or whatever.
Yeah.
And when I was doing the site-wide page and pulling in images, I was just kind of going through the WordPress let me pull up the images, the recent images from the gallery, because I had uploaded, some for myself or whatever. And so I grabbed one, and I just didn't catch that it was one of his until Ben Bellevue from our site basically called it out, and I was like, God damn it! And so I immediately went in and swapped the image out or whatever. I was like, damn you, Cameron.
He has a certain technique, a specialty, I would say, in inserting his face. And always having the right look, for his face being on those images. But I love that he has fun with it for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You can follow Trevor at Trevor J. Starkey. Anything that you want to plug, Trev?
This is going out Wednesday, so if you missed it, yesterday's That D Plus show was myself and Jazz Foster from That Nerdy Site sitting down talking about Hamilton. We had a good 2-hour conversation there. It was fun catching up with Jazz about it because Jazz, like myself, has a very theatrically based background and stuff, so we got to kind of nerd out about some of the deeper theater cuts that are within that musical. It was just great just catching up with her in general. But go check that out if you are not tired of hearing our Hamilton content yet.
Mm-hmm. You can go follow me at Lifty Logie or Logie. Again, I gave up. I was recently on a podcast with the guys over at Dad's Nerds Games. I want to say Dad Bod Games, I think. I should know the name of the show.
Logan. Come on.
I think it was
Dad Bod Gaming, yeah.
Dad Bod Gaming. Thank you, Trevor. It was a ton of fun. They're a good group, so you should go check that out. It was a lot of fun. And in addition, go check out Trevor and Jazz's D Plus show. I also give a shout out to because we're dedicated to Hamilton. We're becoming a Hamilton fan site over at That Nerdy Site, and I, for one, am in favor of it.
That does remind me. I don't think I plugged it on anything, and I should have. I also guested on the Castle Vault a couple weeks ago with our friends over there, talking about Disney's Hercules, and that was a ton of fun. They brought me in. I feel bad because I think I took up like 3 hours of their night or something like that, but we had a great time. It was just a ton of fun. I had not recorded with the two of them together since probably like 2016. It was just like we all like fell right back into to it, and it was just great conversation, great times.
I'm gonna have to send you guys an application because if you're gonna become a Hamilton fan site, I'm in. I cannot get for the life of me most of the folks at Handsome Phantom into it. Dustin's finally come around at this point, but I'm like, look, I'm going 4 years strong here, and you guys you're letting me down.
Yeah. So this is
one on Disney Plus. How can you not be in on it? It's amazing.
That's right.
I did not know that Ben was a Hamel bro. And this is big news because now me and Trevor are gonna have you on another podcast probably to talk about it.
Well, I'm a history guy.
Exactly. I would have imagined given Ben's prior podcasts in the historical realm, and the fact that he is like literally in politics as a mayor of a town. So I was like, it makes sense that it'd be up his alley a little bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk to you after this about doing something about that. Then you can follow That Nerdy Site at That Nerdy Site on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pixel Glasses, all the things. And until next time, play your games and be good to each other.